Hey, it's that time of the month where we go delving into the stats for Staten Island and seeing exactly what's going on. I'm here with Keri Keri Quevedo, and I'm Anthony Lucidello. I'm the broker owner here, and we're going to go over the stats for June.
Yes.
And you did such a wonderful job compiling these, as usual. And if you haven't happened to notice, is it Tuesdays and Thursdays, the stat report comes out?
Yes.
So the individual neighborhood stats.
Neighborhoods.
And you go back and scroll through the feed and you'll see like every neighborhood, no matter where you are, whether in Clove Lake or Tottenville, you can keep up to date on the Prodigy, real estate, on all our social media, right?
Yeah, everything. It's on.
She's good at posting. She posts everything very quickly and very fast. She's the most efficient poster in the office.
No.
Right on point, right on cue. And that's right on cue, like you.
Right?
Keri Q.
Yeah, Q.
Yeah, that's it.
Right.
But anyway, we're going to get into the June stats, and they're really interesting, guys, because this is one of the strangest markets that I can possibly fathom, because everything is just turned upside down, just like everything else in the world. Keri's new to doing this. I'm not. This is I think I've been doing the stats for about 13 years.
So you've seen it all.
Yeah, well, just about. Since 2008, it's been quite a ride. But real estate economics and economics as a whole is so skewed, and like understanding what's going to happen next is probably one of the most difficult things to ascertain for homeowners, because there are general assumptions, and every assumption, it seems like to date that we've gone over, has not panned out in any way that's kind of made sense. So when you talk about the housing data and the stats that come along with it, it's very interesting to see how the markets are kind of responding, because this is not typical times for real estate economics or economics as a whole. So the pandemic-related relief and all the money that's been floating around and stimulus money has, helped drive inflation, which was supposed to be transitory. We saw that worked out. And the same people who said it's transitory are in charge of controlling controlling the data, controlling the inflation, and where it goes from here is really a big question. Mm-hmm. So before we get into the numbers, I just want to go over a couple of things. The Fed had a meeting earlier in the month, actually this week, and the couple of key parameters for what's going on with the Fed fund rate. So what they're seeing with inflation, core inflation, and CPI, Consumer Price Index, where these things are heading. The Consumer Price Index was up 0.2%, which is actually, it beat expectations as far as like rising. So it seems like there's been a little bit of a break in inflation in general. The CPI is at 3%, and it's up. It was over 5.5 to almost 6. It's dropped down another 0.2% on the Consumer Price Index, not core inflation. On the Consumer Price Index, it's down to 4.8%. So prices have seen a little bit of, not a drop. Now, it's very important, 4.8%, that means that prices are still moving higher than what the typical Fed rate would indicate, what they would want out of inflation right now. So what we're looking at is the Fed likes to keep inflation at about 2%, we're about double that, and they're still not comfortable with it. The interesting thing that came out of the minutes of the meeting was that there is a planned rate hike, and the odds makers on rate hikes is that there will be another rate hike in terms of, this table's always bouncing around. But the Fed is looking to raise rates again, and maybe one more time before we see an ease. Now, this is a little interesting thing that's happening with the general economy. We're going to see how that plays out in the coming months, because I do feel like we kind of reached a balance, and I was a little bit more pessimistic about the economy maybe a month or two ago, and I kind of like lifted my expectations a little bit, because it does seem like one of the parameters is housing has improved in certain segments of the housing market. Now, we'll get into the details of what I mean by that in a second. But, you know, the CPI, again, these things have come on better than expected, but I still expect a 0.25 rate hike again coming in, which is they're going to make it on July 25th, 26th. They're going to come out of that meeting and likely raise it another quarter percentage. The interesting thing is that, does that dampen the economy more? What I do have some issues with right now with inflation is when you talk about the consumer price index and you talk about housing in certain areas have begun their ascent once again. Values have come up a bit, even in spite of 7% interest rates, which is odd, but not odd when we talk about what we're talking about here. So the interesting thing that's coming about with this market is what was expected of the real estate market has not really panned out to the degree home buyers expected. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get into that. And we do, so we, just so you know, we do New York and New Jersey. So we do focus this segment on Staten Island, but I did look at some of the New Jersey numbers. And the New Jersey numbers are actually a little bit better than our numbers here, which definitely still shows that prices have declined year over year. Where New Jersey has declined a little bit, but their ascent upwards has really taken off in the last month or two. So we're seeing some strange things in the general market. We're going to get into each one of these things in a second. So why don't we start? You could start with the first set of things. So first set of data that we have in, and you could just give us what they are.
Okay.
Shoot from there, Keri.
So when I was looking at the stats, one thing that caught my eye immediately is the new listings.
Yes.
It's 436 new listings now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Last year, around this time, it was 649. So it declined 32.82% from a year. I think that's
substantial.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting thing, okay? With the rise now, this typically would be considered the listing season. So people like, or the selling season. This is like, we're coming out of the height. June is usually your biggest month. Like activity-wise in general, June has been, and then like July kind of slows down a little bit. So this is really disconcerting that there's a 32% drop in new listings coming on the market. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing considerable amount of squeezing. What we call squeezing is like, it's just less and less available houses on the market for people to purchase, which has definitely impacted sales. And we're going to get into what's going on with that and why people are doing, why aren't people selling? And the real question here is I think there's two factors involved with that. The acceleration of New Jersey's real estate market has made it less affordable to go to than maybe in the past 5 years. So it's not like people are getting as much of a discount moving into New Jersey as they did like the same size house. There is a little bit of a discount, no doubt about it, but the discount isn't quite as dramatic. So maybe, where you get a house of 3,000 square feet in maybe Jackson, New Jersey for about 700. Now you look at 875, 900. It's not as big a gap between the Staten Island market and New Jersey market, which is one, was like, if I do sell, where exactly am I going to go? Because there isn't enough, how I say, affordability in the in moving into those markets. So that's one thing. The other thing is people are sort of stuck in what they call low mortgage rate situations. So they don't feel like going back into a 30-year fixed loan at 7% when they're at maybe 3.5, 4 from like the pandemic time. But in the same vein, I do think that you're going to see as time moves on with this next rate hike, where exactly things are going to move as far as the housing market. The Fed doesn't necessarily correspond with mortgage rates, so you know, it really has nothing to do with mortgage rates to the degree that you may believe. It has some, but you know, we look at the 10-year treasuries as the guidance to see where mortgage rates go. So we get that information on a daily basis, so we can actually watch the trend. So as we watch the 10-year treasury, you know, rise and lower on the yields, we could tell that mortgage rates are going to be up for that month or not.
Yeah.
So that is a good, you know, the new listings are down 32.8% from a year ago. That's
big number.
Yeah, it's unprecedented in a lot of ways. That's more than a third of the market. So that's going to bring up an interesting scenario moving forward. So for the people that are buying, I don't think this is going to squeeze inventory, and it's a supply and demand situation. So the supply and demand situation now is going to put a squeeze on prices, and we're beginning to see that. We see it in New Jersey, we are seeing it here a little bit more, and it's kind of interesting this week. Some of the things that kind of were laying around a bit did wind up picking up steam and offers and things like that. So it is important to understand that we are shifting we are shifting definitely more toward a seller's market, but we have some reservations about calling that just yet. I have, depending on what the Fed does in these next two meetings. So, like whether they're going to make more adjustments in their Fed fund rate, we'll see what's going to happen from there. So let's go to the next piece, which is
sold listings. That's up 13.17% month over month. So last month it was 319, and now it's 361.
Right, and that's
sold listings.
That's up. Sold listings. Well, do you know it's year over year?
Yes, the year over year it is down 22%.
Okay, so we're looking at a seasonal adjustment. So basically, the increase from 361 from last month, 319 sales. This is not too bad from just a numbers point of view. I kind of just look at the numbers. We did numbers, I think, back in February, and we were down around 200. Yeah, it was like really low.
That was crazy.
So we've doubled off of that almost. And, you know, last month was 319. This is not too bad. It's not, you know, you're probably looking for like the healthiest part of the market on Staten Island anyway. 400 sales plus usually is indicative of a very fast moving market. There's a lot of activity. So at 361 for June, not crazy about it, not horrible.
Yeah.
But the year over year numbers is really the interesting thing. What was the number again? Down. The amount of sold houses is down. But I want you to say the amount of sold houses may be down. That does not correspond with what we're going to get to next, which is prices. So it hasn't done what you expect there based on the sales numbers. So as sales numbers decline, it is just a low volume market.
Yeah.
So what was you recite the last number, the percentage year over year on sold listings?
22, it's down 22%.
So down 22% on the sold listing side for June, year over year. So that's significant. It's a significant drop again. But you've been doing the local stats, and you've seen this pan out kind of over the year. It's what we call a low volume market, which, you know, if you're in the real estate profession, it's not necessarily what people are excited to hear, because more than prices, I think it affects the real estate industry more as volume. So the amount of sales is probably even more important than actual prices. So
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. So we're getting to that number right now, right? So this is the big number that everybody wants to hear, right?
Yes. So the sold average sale.
Right.
That's at 688,000 around there. It's down month over month, 2.10%.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Okay. So again, I do think that, sold, and I've talked about leading indicators in the market. This is not a good sign of what's coming. So as a leading indicator, I don't think that sold prices, so this is reflective of what the market was 3 months prior. This is what's actually closed. So the market is definitely not as healthy as it was. It wasn't the greatest market back in February, March. So it was kind of very slow go, and so you got like this whole. There was a backlog in terms of like where buyers were expecting the market to go, and I think it just never materialized. And price drops the way they saw it would, and more people just came up. So they go look, they're looking every day. I don't see more houses. Every time I go to look for a house, it's still moving off the market somehow, some way. And this has kind of pulled the wheel and pulled people off the fence a bit and said, hey, you know what? We're not waiting anymore. We just, at this point, it's like we don't see much change in prices. And to be honest with you, month over month, the average sale price is down, but the median sale price is only down less than 0.75%. So it's not necessarily. So we do look at median sales. How do you determine median? When you deal with low inventory or low data modeling, and you say, okay, well, the sample sizes are smaller, so the data can be skewed a lot more by a single sale. So median kind of gets you to the more like average. It takes the highs and the lows off, and you kind of get more of an average. So there's really very little difference in the average sold price overall. So it's not like we're looking at 0.75%, so like 0.77. So it's a negligible amount. But it is down 5.2 from last year, the median.
Yes. Yeah.
And 7% on the solds, right? I mean, that's what we came up with.
Yeah. Why are there like sold medium sales down from last year?
Yeah, I do. So this has been a precipitous decline in the amount of, again, I think the activity overall was extremely low. Now, we did the February numbers. When we did the February numbers, they were down substantially. There is that was kind of a lull at its worst, and we kind of came out of that. I do think that we're going to see this change a little bit coming when we start doing those September numbers. And again, why are they down? Rates really picked up in October, November of last year, December were up like close to 8%. And I think at one point actually broke 8% on the mortgage. So the mortgages have been reflective of the 8% number. The mortgage at the 8% interest rate definitely skewed a lot of the buyer activity. Would I say this number would be worse? I would think it would be, because it would indicate volumes are just not supporting the market. But the amount of stuff that's coming on the market is just so small that it's not really giving any breathing room to anybody who's negotiating anything for sale, because it's just, there's still more bids on a single house now.
For you though, as I was looking at the stats, I wasn't looking last year around this time, but I saw there's a $55,000 difference between sold average sale and sold medium sale.
Why is there a discrepancy like that, 50,000? So this is what I mean. So a lot of people will take this, when we aggregate data and we talk about median. So usually what happens is, it's important for people to understand, because some people will, that's a good question, but some people will look at average sale price and median sale price kind of the same way. So they'll make a determination on value based on the average sale price, that may not necessarily be the best data set to be using to determine value, because you could have a single sale in a low volume market, like as you have a single sale, say a $3 million house sold in that month. If from an average sale perspective, that's every sale incorporated, you're going to get a data swing, or what we call an anomaly, in the data that's going to suggest that maybe the market's doing much healthier because of a single sale. And that's the type of data that can be incorporated into these average sale price, then median sale price, which takes the top 5 sold and the low 5 sold, and they take them off, and then you come up with as you come to a middle amount where the frequency is. And that's why you're getting median is a little bit better indicator in that regard. So obviously last year, June, you're looking at that 50% swing, $50,000 swing from average sale to median sale price. It's likely due to data anomalies that are resulting from a single or a couple of sales that really ranged out of the typical norms. So if our average sale is 600, you have something sell for like 3 million, which happens on Staten Island on a residential sale. You could skew the data quite heavily. So we have to take that into consideration. I don't have that specific information, what specifically led to that, but it's more than likely the case. I've been doing these numbers for a while, and that's usually the case. So you should be looking at more the median as a better guide, especially when we talk about using a low sample size for collecting data. You could have these anomalies, but we help you break down those anomalies, make sure you know exactly what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah. All
right. Thank you for answering that.
Yes.
Anyway, you said leading indicators, right?
Right.
Pending sales.
Yep. She's gonna hit me with that one. It's not gonna be indicative of what I'm talking about. I could feel it.
The pending sales are June are at 348.
Right.
Last month it was 374, so it's actually down about 7% month over month, and it's down 6% year over year. It was 370 last June.
So we've dropped the pending sales. So pending sales is definitely a leading indicator, and I do think that's where the data is yet to catch up with things. But it brings up kind of an interesting scenario. What is the driving force behind? Because the interesting thing is, we're going to talk about it in a second, and we'll introduce that data set in a second, which is the average sale time in the market has dropped.
Yes.
Which we'll get into in a second. So we have low pending sales, but yet we do have the average days on the market dropping precipitously over the last 2 months. So where does that kind of leave us? And that's the average time on the market for the sold. So we're going to see this pan out in such a way that we're looking at the pending sales and saying, okay, the numbers are down, but it's not necessarily going to be reflective of price in the future, because I don't think from that perspective you're going to see this huge ride upward, because it's just that when you're looking at pending sales, there's just less available houses to purchase. And what we call about the buyable market, there's a lot of houses that are on the market right now that are way out of the price range, or they're listed way beyond their scope of purchasing. So what I call a sellable inventory becomes very, very tight. And then with that becomes there's just not enough on the market to support pending sales going up. So I do think the pending sales, well, you would say pending sales moving forward would be something you say, okay, well, pending sales are down, they're down year over year, 6%, which is negligible, but also the amount of new listings on the market from year over year is also down substantially. So it's down 6% pending sales, but you said the new listings on the market are down 22%.
Yeah. So
with that corresponding with one another, it is actually more indicative, I would say, of a healthier decline. It's just that there's not enough there. So it's like having a store with too few items on the shelves. you can't have volume without like product on the shelves. So what you're seeing is pending sales suffering from lack of available inventory, and you know it's definitely a tougher business for real estate people because the volumes continuously have been a problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
And that leads us to number of listings.
Mm-hmm.
That's also down 0.5%. It's at 1,400.
Mm-hmm. From last year. From last month.
Well, it's at 1,400 from last month. It's down 5%.
Okay. Nothing that's kind of falls in line with everything else. I don't think there's anything to kind of, again, it's fitting the bill that people are not interested in selling right now. Mm-hmm. Where that goes from now is I don't believe that with that being the case, that we're going to see any type of appreciable price drops, even with a continued raise in rates. The numbers of houses. Now, just to give you a context of why I'm saying this, when I was in the 2008 real estate market, 2008, 2009, 2010, there was as many as 4,000 houses on the market.
Wow.
Back then.
4,000.
So now, like when we're talking about last year, it was 1,700 houses on the market, right?
Yeah.
This as of this month, it's down to 28% less than a year ago. So, and you talk about pending sales being down 6%. That's actually indicative that the market is not really dropping to where, because if you would say, well, it would match the pending sales, like the inventory would match the pending sales, it would be, you would say, okay, maybe a 15% drop in pending sales based on the amount of available inventory. So it's actually indicative that the market is actually not too bad with the amount of houses on there, and only being 8% drop in pending sales. There's less on the market, and it's not really, you're not seeing the pending sales going down in concert with that.
Yeah.
So that's really something to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is
price trends.
Yeah, the price trends.
So that is now at 841,000. Mm-hmm. It's up from last month, 2.12%. Last month it was 823,000. Mm-hmm. Year over year, it is also up $796,000.
$796,000. Yep.
Yeah. Why do you
attribute those things?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the interesting thing. The price trends are up. So this is what we call when the houses are going up on the market. And I do think that this is where people have to be a little bit, this is where uncertainty kind of begins. Like, where do we begin? So we are dealing with low volume markets, and I don't think that people should necessarily, there'll be some contributing factors that, and the funny thing is, I don't have the exact data on this, but the amount of expired houses is actually, we've been seeing an uptick in expired houses. Houses that were listed for sale in contract to be sold, but didn't sell. So my thing is that the parameters, you have to be careful of, so location-based things may play a little bit more of a role. Like, where I think people get so you're seeing people, put their house up on the market for more. Mm-hmm. All things that's on what I call the all things being equal, location, area, comparables, all the same. Yeah, you could probably say, based on what we're seeing in the data, it does look like there's a little upslope, but you have to really consider the fact that pricing your house out of the marketplace right now, the volumes continue to decrease, and any increase in interest rates are going to have a much more profound impact on the houses that are not priced sufficiently than if they were priced sufficiently from the beginning. So we're going to see how that kind of plays out, because I do think interest rates, I believe, they're going to touch 8% at some point, because I do think the one thing that the Fed wants to do, and the core inflation number, if prices of homes continue to accelerate, home prices are really a contributing factor to what's causing what some of the CPI numbers are really coming in at. So if the housing market accelerates, basically the Fed is taking that into consideration when raising rates. We need to really consider that when we kind of move into that market, like when we move into the mortgage market, to see, like, you know, how far is the Fed going to go before, like, the next set of events, like, will trigger an uptick that's going to try to drive prices down a bit. And it did, just so you know, when they got up to 8%, prices, and I'm going to be very clear, prices have actually come down still a bit year over year on Staten Island. So it's not like anybody should be expecting it. But there are some healthier indicators. I'm not saying that right now that there are some healthy indicators that if your house has certain parameters, you may fare a lot better than a house that doesn't. So you can see a price appreciation. And like I said, we kind of talk about things, when we talk about data, we talk about all things being equal. And it's not the case when it comes to real estate. And anybody who does real estate knows that it's never the same. Every situation is pretty unique, and they should not be considering, I mean, obviously knowledge and expertise in understanding data and statistics is important to the process. So what we try to do is, like, make sure you understand that, you know, we have to factor in all these things. But, you know, I do want to touch on that one thing, because I think this is where the leading indicators really, I noticed the biggest change.
Days on market.
Days on market. There we go.
Yes. So the median days on market are down month over month, 14%, but it's up year over year 75%.
Okay. So we're gonna what we call trend establishing, or establishing a trend. We usually look at these things in far as 3 month or quarter cycle to see if, like, we develop a trend in the graph to say, oh, you know, we have a trend developing. So this has been a trend. It's kind of floated up around 100 days for a few months, and now has been getting its ascent downwards. So that means houses that are coming on the market, this is probably one of the best leading indicators, is time on the market is always a leading indicator. It is up 75% from a year ago, right?
Yeah, the median days.
So it definitely slowed down. So volumes are definitely not there. So your house is going to be sitting on the market. Don't get yourself. Now now in New Jersey, it's completely different. We don't even touch on. I did some of the Jersey numbers, and they're way back. They're back over the list to sell price ratio. They're back over asking price after being under for about 6 months. You know, it's down to like 97.5 in New Jersey. Now it's at 101 again. So, like, yeah, their list to sell price ratios are flying through the roof. Wow. I still think, well, we didn't get into that here. I do believe that the list to price sell ratio has also too. You do?
Yes, list sale to list ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's up here.
Yeah, it's up a bit.
0.2%.
0.2%. So it stands at about 96.9 or 97.1.
97.1.
So 97.1%. So that means there's only a 3% discount. I believe at one point it was heading into, like, almost closer to 5. It was like 4.3% at one time back in January and February. So people were giving substantially higher discounts. I don't believe that that's. We've watched this trend develop over the last 3 months, and we're seeing that time on the market has definitely decreased. Is up 75% year over year. So let's not start, like, jumping out the door waiting for, like, you know, how come my house hasn't sold in a week? That was the kind of market frenzy we were in a year ago. It just started. The real slowdown started happening around this time last year. You know, so it's definitely something that. That average days on the market is definitely looking like the trend is breaking, and if you know, this is to give you maybe we'll post the stats from there. You kind of see it in the bar graph here, if you can actually see it.
Yeah.
We're watching a 3-month trend of a decline in the average days on the market.
Yes.
Again, the parameters for every situation are different. This is an all things being equal kind of scenario, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves. We're thinking, oh, well, the good times are rolling. The volumes are way down. And if that's the case, it's like it will create, when the market does make a turn, it's going to create like a little bit of, the volume will not support many more things on the market to keep the prices where they are.
Yeah.
So the volumes, we're looking at volumes of sales. I'm going to tell you right now, if there's an incline in the amount of available listings based on the volumes we're talking about now, does it raise a little bit at first? It's kind of like, yeah, prices come up, but if there's a substantial change in interest rates, it could come down much more quickly. So if it becomes an inventory increase, but all things being said, I don't see it. It's why this is existing like this. Nothing makes sense. So I can't. So if you said, Anthony, what do you make of all this? This is basically alien-like. So this is how much stimulus, when you put stimulus into an economy and like you just take the market, this is nothing about here is like in the time I do this is 13 years of just reading stats. This is absolutely insanity. Nobody's going to tell you this is normal because it's not. And that's why it's been so hard to figure out. And it's been so hard for homeowners to figure out like what's the next move. Like people are waiting for the shoe to drop. Is it going to fall? The market's going to crash. You hear all these things and it's like, well, geez, these things aren't panning out. And it's like, what's going to happen next? And I do think that at the end of the day, you're going to see the markets basically look to really bounce one way or another in very small increments at this point. I don't see anything, but we're going to look at those. We're going to watch what the Fed does in these next 2 banks. Last time we talked, and I think I did the live with Joe, we did the bank failure thing, and that was like the big news, and like everybody was scared. It was all like, who's going to jump out a window? No, that's just a joke. But at the end of the day, it's like, I got to get my money out of the bank. So like, it's just weird time, strange times it is. And, it's something we have to watch looking forward, and we'll do this next month. Obviously, you can watch the stats. We'll have this on YouTube, right, Joe?
Yep.
And then we'll have live tomorrow, which we're trying to still figure out a topic.
I got a topic.
She has a topic, so she'll be spewing that out in a minute. I wish I had it for you today. We'll keep you in suspense for a few hours while we determine what's going to be discussed tomorrow. Anyway, it's always exciting to do these with you, Keri, and
oh yes,
you're definitely sharpening your axe for doing this.
I hope so.
Yeah, you hope so. What do I tell you about hope and try? Come on. There is no hopes and tries. It's due.
I am.
You're doing.
I'm doing.
That's it. She's doing. And the big thing is, moving forward, is making sure you stay up to date on the stats. And you haven't checked, you haven't gotten the New Jersey stats, so I don't want to overwhelm Keri with New Jersey as well. You could actually, they're on Facebook now. We will be publishing the Jersey data out in more kind of computerized for like, for those people who want to know what's happening in Jersey, we do get the data there as well. And we'll be, we'll obviously be doing this once a month, and then Keri's going to be an expert in stats and data reading.
Yes.
You it's definitely sharpened up over the last few months.
Yeah, for sure. Like I am understanding it.
You're gonna be an economist. You're gonna have an economist on staff.
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to figure out what the heck is going on. You're gonna look at these data and say, "Geez, this is what's going on." Maybe something better than some real estate people. Might be. You might actually be able to predict markets better than the real estate folks out there. And that's what you should be questioning. These are the questions, guys, that they need to be answering. Whether leading indicators, whether trailing indicators. You got to know who knows what they're talking about when you start talking about those things. And that's important because that's going to determine where your house is going to go. If you go on the market, you need to have these facts down pat.
Yes.
So you want to know who knows this and who don't. And my staff is actually forced to watch this stuff. It's going to be it's mandatory to have a full rundown of the data.
Yes.
Anyway.
Sun just came out.
Yeah, the sun. Oh, it's just a little brighter.
It's brightened up.
We have a bright. You don't even need lights in here. It's actually amazing.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I like the lights off.
Thank you, Keri, once again for doing this wonderful report this month. And it's July already. God, it's so fast.
It is going by fast.
But again, thank you so much. Signing off. Hopefully you found this information well, receive it well. And if you have a question, head over to any of our social media platforms. What are our social media platforms?
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, Nextdoor, LinkedIn,
Joe sitting here with
Google.
whatever you want, you'll find us somewhere
Our number.
in this year.
Yeah.
Next door. Don't forget next door. All you Great Kills residents, I think we're going to be setting up some specific, Great Kills related content, because that's where we're located here in Great Kills, where I call home. And it's always that's kind of the environment we have here. So anyway, next door, folks. Hopefully we'll see you around town. All right? That's us signing off. Thank you, Keri, once again. And we'll take it from there.
Yes. Let me get
Ciao.
this. Bye, guys.